But it wasn't.
And it's so frustrating. My problem is right?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I want to speak for myself and all the people at these desks. We're very honored to do the hard work this wonderful community needs done, and let's get up and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's do roll call, please.
Johnson?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
Klaus?
Here.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Kropa?
Yes.
Maxbauer? Here. Lathrop?
Here. I'm going to change this a little bit. Tom has an announcement to make.
Yeah, I wanted to let people know that Sonny Wheelock is always very humble, but his daughter was named Louisiana's head soccer coach, which is really Division I, which is really big stuff. And I think that's just great. So, like Susie Merchant with Michigan State, and this is comparable. So this is quite a thing. But she has coached 18 all-conference selections. She's only 30 years old. 15 all-tournament honorees, 2 SB Offensive Players of the Year, 2 SC Defensive Players of the Year, and she led the South Alabama, which she was currently at, leaving for Louisiana. They were ranked 25th in the final coaches poll, and they advanced to the second round of the NCAA. Just really an accomplishment. We all know that, of course, she takes after her mother. But she's quite an accomplished young woman, and I was mentioning to Sonny, we all feel good when our kids do well, and I feel good when mine do well, and not so good when they're not doing well. But it's really nice to celebrate it. So congratulations to Sonny and his wife and his family, and also Keaton Wheelock. I think they'll probably have something in the paper, but it's really quite an accomplishment. That's
Congratulations.
Congratulations to your daughter. And all those soccer matches that you drove her to.
Yeah, all that time in soccer matches was worth it.
We won't even talk about how many miles my wife drove to soccer matches.
Oh, I'll bet.
Okay, are there any changes for the December 16th minutes? Deletions, additions, alterations? Anybody? And they'll stand as read. And now it's time for our first public comment starring Bonnie.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, hearing that, is there anybody here that wants to make public comment? Please don't be shy. Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Lori Wells, Manager for Senior Services Network. I just want to let the public know that we are now taking appointments for free income tax assistance for seniors. AARP does this every year at the Senior Center as well as at the Commission on Aging. Seniors can start calling now to make those appointments. We encourage and urge people to think about it now and do it. Unfortunately, people will call around April 10th and not understand why they can't get in by the 15th. So it's really important, and seniors should know and understand that they really should file an income tax return, even if they've never filed one or maybe not never, but in a while haven't filed one. The IRS recommends it helps with identity fraud because some people are filing fraudulent tax returns. So if you file a return, if there's a problem, it will come up because it'll come back to you. So it's important to do that. Also reminding seniors that, speaking of fraud, right now, people are getting a lot of calls from the IRS saying they're going to sue them and pay now, or they're coming after you, and we want to make sure people don't give out information over the phone that they shouldn't be giving out. And we're also looking for more volunteers to do taxes, so if there are any retired CPAs out there that would be willing to do these tax returns, we still have needs in the outreach communities, so we want to make a call for that as well. Thank you.
Lori, would you give the phone numbers?
Thank you. You can call the Senior Center at 922-4911, or you can also call our Commission on Aging at 922-4688.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Please don't be shy. Going once, twice? Okay. Back to the agenda. Now it's approval of the agenda. Are there any deletions, additions to the agenda? Anybody? Okay, the agenda stands as approved. Now we go to the consent calendar and return of our star.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file, none. B, approval, number 1, ESRI GIS software maintenance support renewal. Number 2, 2016 hauler licenses. Number 3, confirmation of appointments, Traverse City Commission to boards.
Okay, hearing that, is there anybody that wants to remove anything from the consent calendar? Okay, I guess then, action on the consent calendar, do we do a vote to accept it?
Anybody in the public wants?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Anyone in the public want to remove something from the consent calendar? Thank you. Okay, do we need to,
Yes, Mr.
We need a
Chairman.
motion to approve the consent
Someone-
calendar.
I would move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
is there a second? Dr. Johnson seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. We're going on now to special order of business. There's none. Item removes consent calendar is none. Department action items. IT, document imaging maintenance contract renewal discussion. Who's got that? Captain IT.
Good evening, Don Sheehan, County IT Department, IT Director. In December, and I was at the Ways and Means meeting there, and the item did not get pulled off the consent calendar, so I didn't attend the board meeting when it was discussed about the OnBase and ImageSoft document imaging system. But, so I did actually investigate those costs before, in early November, knowing that the prosecutor's office was going to be switching systems sometime this year. So basically our contract is, though, that we must renew on an annual basis, and we cannot cancel midway through the year. And I asked if it was possible to purchase only 3 months of maintenance, and basically they said, no, you must purchase 12 months at a time. So, you know, and the other thing too, if we do cancel maintenance, if we want to reactivate, we still have to pay back to the point of that cancellation. And there was also a reactivation fee if we were to do that. So, I mean, I went through that and I did talk to Bob, and basically the plan was that we would take those licenses and transfer them over to district court. We're working on a criminal system for them now. So it's really, in the long run, it's cheaper for us to continue to pay the maintenance on those existing licenses than to go out and to repurchase new licenses. And so that was kind of where I was coming from on that one. And we do plan on transferring those costs. I would like to say that it's not IT software, it's the department software. We met as a group back in 2007 and 2008 when we looked at the system, and the departments were really the driver behind that. And we looked at several systems. We went through a complete RFP process. We went to other counties, and that's how it was selected. And IT is basically kind of the central manager of the contract, and I bill out those costs to the different departments then. You know, that invoicing contract could as well be administered by finance if you didn't want it under IT, but it seems like it's easier for me. I'm a little bit more aware, I think, of who all is using it and how it's used out there. Let's see, I had a couple other things. So in the portion of the agreement there that reflects the prosecutor licenses, the total is $5,791 of that total. I believe it's a $125,000 invoice. A lot of the cost is the server software itself, so it's not the client side of it, it's the server side. And we take that total cost, though, and we distribute it back to all of the departments that utilize the software. And so other than that, yeah, I guess that was what I had to say on that one. And I did bring a few other departments, or invited them to come and just say how they use the software. Friend of the Court is completely paperless, and I know back in 2008 or 9, took almost like 950,000 documents and hired a firm and scanned them all into the system and freed up a conference room, basically, from their filing room. And so I don't really want to say what they did. I'd like them, just, if that's okay, at this point, just have them come up and talk, or if there's questions right now on the license renewal.
Well, let's have them ask you questions to start with.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I see the need for this. Does it, and this be, I guess, for everybody, for this kind of software, does it ever get reviewed after so many years to see what else is on the market? Can you come out cheaper and that kind of stuff? I know everybody's used to using this system now, but is that reviewed at any point, I guess?
Well, it would be. I mean, we're still at the point of implementing software. We just got through doing a system for the Michigan Department of Corrections that links into the circuit court. So they've made such an investment of getting the system implemented and it links into their current child support enforcement system. We're also using, through the same vendor, they have an e-file portal out on the internet, and it integrates basically feeding those documents into the system. So it would require a lot of change. We got basically on a trial basis to do that e-filing in Michigan, and if they were to give that up, they would basically give up that whole e-filing portion because the state is not allowing anyone else on board at this point. So, I mean, typically we do, but they continually enhance that software, and that's a lot of what that maintenance is. We just upgraded the server software to a new version, and we're still almost like 2 versions behind because they announce a new one every year, and it's just not possible to implement it that quickly.
Don, when we talked about this particular software, you know that we went ahead and renewed the contract and the maintenance contract, and I want you to understand my objections to it. You know, Mr. Cooney did mention that in his department it goes down every day. You know that I have been coming to work on a daily basis, and I'm using OnBase, and I can confirm with Mr. Cooney that the system does go down on a frequent basis. Now, I certainly don't use it as much as his department does, but it does go down. We are using, and I digress a little bit here, we're using an antique system, the AS400, which is an old 1960s IBM system.
Not quite that old.
Actually, I think it was about 1967, 69.
That was announced in the 80s.
But in any event, we're using an antiquated system there, and you and I did discuss it, and you said, well, nobody wants to change. Well, in my mind, this document imaging software system, yeah, it works for the courts, I got that. And it's what they're used to using. But it is, from my little bit of knowledge, it is extraordinarily expensive. It is time-consuming when it goes down, and I really do believe there's a better way. So those were my concerns. That was my main objection. I'm not saying that it doesn't work for the courts. I'm sure it does, or they would not be sitting in the audience.
Right, and just to address a couple, the finance links into the AS400. The friend of the court, they don't use the AS400 at all.
And I can digress about New World software and bring the sheriff in here about New World software. That stuff is just terrible. And
you know, it's not going to matter what software, you're going to run into issues regardless.
I went to a conference and no one liked the New World software. I went to a GFOA conference, and I could not find a government finance officer in the room, and there were many that liked New World Software. Because I did go around and ask them, because I wanted to know whether or not we were alone in our challenges with that particular software. Now, obviously, I didn't look at imaging, document imaging that we're using here, but just from my perspective, moving forward, I know it works now, that's wonderful, that's fine, but moving forward, I believe there's a better way and a more cost-effective way, a more efficient way than this.
All right, well, and I've always followed county processes of doing an RFP.
I know you have.
Involved departments, they've been in, when we selected New World and went down that road. So, if they're really not that happy, then we have to make a choice at some point. Yes, okay, let's let that system go. But, I think sometimes you hear some of the complaints, but if you talk to dispatch and how it works for them and some of the others, would they really say that it's all bad, or are there pieces of it that they complain about? And, and I know, and we've had our trials with the document imaging system. Some of it's the ImageSoft. They have their own custom pieces that integrate with the OnBase. And it's been more some of their custom pieces, not necessarily the OnBase, that's been the issue. And we have really tried to work. And usually when, like you say, it goes down, it's like a 5-minute to 15-minute is usually, it's not like it's down for a day or anything. It's
I understand
very
that,
short,
but everything stops. And, I can just envision Mr. Cooney standing in a courtroom going, "The wheel is spinning, Your Honor." It's a staff time is expensive and valuable. And I just am saying, I'm sure that in 2007, this was probably, as my grandfather used to say, the cat's meow. I just think moving forward, I would appreciate if you would explore if there isn't a more cost-effective, better way.
And I will. But the OnBase product itself, if they're in like the top 500 companies, they sell $672 billion in software in 2013.
Then they're really good salesmen.
Well, they have some really good products where you're only seeing a portion of what that product can do, and that's so.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Is it the software, or is it more just the equipment we have?
It's really not the equipment, because we're running it under a virtual server environment.
Okay.
So we have found there are glitches in that software, and I'm going to say that ImageSoft, they're an integrator for us, and there are other ones out there that you can work with to help implement OnBase, but they created some of their own custom tools for signing documents, and some of those are where we've run into some issues, and some of those, though, they offer features that are not in the OnBase product, so we've continued to use it. So.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question of the board. Are we likely to vote on this tonight?
No,
No,
that's
it's
just
already been voted on.
information.
It's been approved.
It's just information stuff?
Yeah.
This is
It's been
information.
approved.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
I
Yes.
had a comment, and, I pulled it off the consent calendar because, it's a maintenance agreement, it involves our office, and I had a very specific, narrow complaint about it, and that was going to ImageSoft, talking to them about the fact we were only going to have 3 months where our office is using 18 licenses, and you were told by ImageSoft that they would have to charge, if they dropped the licenses at that time, they would have to charge you back 3 years, or up to 3 years, if we terminated the licenses rather than transferring them to the district court. And I know the plan is to go, if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's no, if we had.
Let me finish my thought here first. And so the object was we're going to transfer them to the district court. At least I'm not paying for them out of my budget, which was very important at the time, so I appreciated that. But we all know that they were to be used for criminal cases. The district court isn't up and running yet with criminal cases, and in fact, they're 2 to 3 years behind the project date for getting those criminal cases online. So you would think a company that's got this big agreement with our county, maybe it's a small project for them, but to me it sounds like quite a bit of money. and we were a pilot county for them, but they're 2 to 3 years behind with that project. You'd think they'd be cutting us some sort of break. For example, well, we won't charge you those upfront costs for renewing the licenses. And you know, that just makes sense to me that they would be willing to negotiate something since they're so far behind trying to get the criminal cases up and running in district court. So that was my very narrow point, something that affected my budget, and somehow this got conflated into, I talked to one person who thought the board was thinking about terminating the ImageSoft contract or terminating OnBase, and it had nothing to do with that. So
Yeah, so if we had not renewed the maintenance at the beginning of the year, there simply wouldn't have been a charge. There wouldn't have been any retroactive 3-year charge or anything.
yeah, but you're saying if you drop a license and then you later renew it,
Correct.
then there is a big upfront cost
Well, then they
to
just,
renew
they
that
just put you
license.
back to the point where you canceled the maintenance, saying, basically, you've had it all along, and they would retroactively start you on that date again. So if you canceled in March, you wanted to reactivate in June, they're going to put you back to that March and say you need to pay the maintenance for those 3 months where you had canceled it in order to reactivate the license.
Yeah, and in your agenda item, you indicated the cost of the new licenses are equal to approximately 3 years of maintenance on the existence license.
Right, and that's why I
existing
say it's
licenses.
better for us to continue paying the maintenance on those licenses and transfer them to district court, rather than totally say, cancel, get rid of them, and buy new ones
And
later.
I think
So
what
I
the-
was just using a comparison.
What the board indicated at the meeting was, they had asked you to investigate whether ImageSoft would be willing to cut us a break on that. So did you do that, or?
My understanding was whether we could cancel your maintenance and only pay for 3 months. That was what my understanding would be, to negotiate. So, yeah,
Well, I would have talked to ImageSoft. They're not my favorite. I'm not their favorite prosecutor these days, but I would have talked to them about cutting us some sort of a break, especially with, you know, here's the punch list of items we gave them about 2.5 years ago to fix. And I think you can affirm that they might have fixed 1 or 2 of these items. It's several pages here. But they were never able to come through with any of them. So that's why we're switching.
All right, and just to address your other one with the criminal, we never signed a contract with them to do district court criminal. That's not on their list.
Okay.
They did the civil only.
Okay, I thought, talking to Carol Stocking, that was the plan, to put the criminal.
It was, but we've never contracted with them to do that. We've continued to utilize the civil portion and have not moved forward on criminal.
But wasn't that the plan, that it was supposed to be up and running 2 or 3 years ago?
Well, it would be had we signed an agreement and agreed to pay them for the development of that system.
And why
But-
haven't we signed that agreement?
Well, partly, I mean, Carol has also had issues with the system, and she can tell you herself to be comfortable with the system before she would go there. So, yeah, that was part of it. But we have asked for, like, the family division's asked for the last couple of years to be able to move forward, and it's basically been cut from the budget. So there hasn't been money there to do it.
Okay. I'm glad that everyone's here to speak. The question is, do we really need to hear from them if we're going to proceed forward anyway?
I don't.
Do you want to hear from them?
Oh, I think I don't know if they want us.
Do you want to speak? If you don't have to, you don't want to?
We're moving forward,
We're
so.
moving forward here.
Let me just say that.
Yeah, come to the front and say your name. Yeah,
Dawn's
thank you.
been pretty successful with hers.
And Don had asked us to come because he thought perhaps there was, you know, not a voice for, this is a really nice program. So
Dawn, could you kind of hit the microphone, please?
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, no problem. So I won't belabor it because it sounds like we don't want to take a lot of time with this, but I would actually just invite any one of you to come over to my office, and because, you know, a picture is worth a lot, and so I would love to have any of you who are concerned that this software is not a very robust system that can accommodate some tremendous needs, which are in my office, please come and view it in my office. It's a standing invitation. I'd love to show it to you. Come over and see what it can do. The system is so much more than just a document storage and retrieval system. We use templates, we route documents from all around the office, from our office to the clerk's office, up to the judges, back to the office. It's a very robust system if people put the time and energy into development of it, which we did, and I would love to just show it to you. So it's an invitation, okay? So anytime you would like to come and see it, I'd love to show it.
Thank you very much. And any one of you that want to speak, you're welcome to speak. It looks to me like it's a done deal anyway, so, you know.
We signed it in December.
Anybody? Judge?
Thank you. I'm Tom Power. It is an opportunity to bring you a little bit of an update, because several years ago, we appeared before this commission, got your support, and I don't mean just emotional, financial support, to contract with ImageSoft to develop an e-file system, and more importantly, a document management system, so that electronic documents move around the office, between offices, is quicker. We don't have all of the paperwork involved, and we did that and contracted for that with ImageSoft. Now, we're probably the most advanced court in the state at this point in terms of e-file. There's a lot of problems. There's glitches. And I think at some point we maybe need to reevaluate whether a different provider could be done. But they did provide the contract services, much of which is paid for by the 3 counties. And we got a system in which virtually all of our cases are now handled electronically, and the internal management of the documents are electronic. So I think it has produced a considerable savings. We figure it's on the order of $35,000 of postage and copying. Just that. The personnel savings are substantial. We did not replace someone for a long time, and when a vacancy occurred several years ago, and we did not replace that person. And then just a year or so ago, change a higher priced person into a lower priced person in order to, in part, due to the savings of e-filing. I think it has saved the clerk's office considerable personnel time, and I believe they may have made a reduction a couple years ago of 1 person based on this. And the Leelanau clerk claims a half FTE reduction on this basis, because each time a piece of paper comes in the clerk's office, they would have to go find the file number in a Rolodex, huge Rolodex file in the back room, pull it out, bring it out, put holes in it, put it in the file, and then do the computer entry. Then go back to the Rolodex and stick it in the file. Right now it comes in, they make the quick computer entry, hit a button, and it's gone. That's that quick. It also is good for the attorneys. They get stuff served immediately. They don't have to photocopy, collate, staple, address a number of envelopes and put them in the mail each time they want to serve something. They just hit the file button and it's done. Now, in terms of when you want to do this, ImageSoft contract expires at the end of 2016. We're obligated with them. They get $4 per filing under our contract, which paid them for doing our document management system. Essentially, that's what happened. And so at the end of 2016, we could consider that. At the time we selected ImageSoft, and I'm saying that there's problems. I mean, I just spent yesterday, my personal computer on my desktop, it's actually a county computer, but on my office desktop, would not sign documents. Now, everybody else's was working, but mine wouldn't. Well, then, today, the system was down in the afternoon for an hour or so. So there have been problems. But when we looked into it, there was another vendor, Tyler Technologies. And we got terrible reports from courts that have been using Tyler that they just couldn't get help and couldn't get callbacks, and we just said we're not going to do business with them. Now, since then, Tyler has been taken over by a different company. I've heard much better reports. They are a major provider, and there may be others too, and we can all go look at that. But we're obligated through the end of 2016 by contract, and of course, in the background, the state is involved now with e-filing, and I'm sure that will produce an excellent outcome.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? You guys came. If you want to talk, I'm happy to hear from you.
Carol Stocking, the court administrator for the district court. I'm a little taller than the others. The only thing I want to say is, with regard to Bob Cooney's comment about the district court not moving forward on the criminal, that's true. We did not move forward, and we probably had the opportunity back in the early days to do that before the county started cutting the imaging budgets. But we didn't, because OnBase has been so unstable. When we're doing a civil docket on any given day, it's really one day a week. If the computer's not working or the system's not working, we can fly by the seat of our pants. On any criminal day, which is every day of the week, I kind of joked to Bob the other day when we spoke that if we would have been paperless in the criminal world, I would have lost my job, because the judges would have said, what the heck were you thinking when you decided to go forward with this? So until OnBase, ImageSoft, and I really want to emphasize that it's not OnBase, it's ImageSoft. And until we get a much more stabilized system, there's no way we could go live paperless way, in a paperless world in the district court. It just could not, we could not function. So that's where we are. But we want to be paperless and hope to be paperless. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get there sometime. Thank you.
Thanks. I know in my office I spent a lot of money on computers so I could be paperless. I don't think it's possible. Just kidding. Okay, anybody else? Anyone else want to talk?
I just had a couple
Go ahead.
comments, if that's all right. We use the OnBase in the finance department for a lot of different things, and just my first day, I came from a job where we had an AS400 system and a separate scanning system, and it was cumbersome to log onto that system, and then you had to have the right information to log onto that system and look up the information, and that was really cumbersome. And my first day here, I was shown how to look up an item, do an alto, and boom, the image of the invoice that was paid was right there in front of me, and it was just amazing to me to have that ability to do that. And we scan all of our invoices for payment. We scan, the system also images our documents, our check registers, our payroll registers, our invoices, our accounts receivable. It is our system of record retention, and as you know, most records are required to be saved for at least 7 years. And I just can't imagine having to go down to the storage room and having to look up something from 2009 or 2010 when we get a FOIA request or something. It would just be so cumbersome to me to have to spend the time to go down there and look all that information up when all I have to do is bring it up on the AS400 and hit Alt-O and the image is right there. And I know it can seem a little cumbersome, but when you would have had to have logged on to another scanning system to look up that information, this is a huge time saver for the finance department. And I also invite you to come in, and I'd be happy to show you how we use the system in finance. We're a little short on help right now, but we'll do what we can to show you what we do. But if you do walk in, you'll see that there's mounds and mounds of paper that are no longer on top of the file cabinets, because those were all documents that can be shredded, because all of that documentation is imaged. It was just sitting on top in our office, not taken care of. So it is really, and we didn't have to haul it downstairs and store it in the storage room because it's already scanned and imaged. So I personally love the system, and but that's my point. But I just wanted to put my 2 cents worth in there.
Thank you. Bob, has all your questions been answered and your concerns addressed?
Yeah, and I agree with the others who've commented. Document imaging is, anyone that's not on board with that is really missing the boat. I think that's probably one of the best ways that this county can save money. That's not my gripe. We're going with a web-based document imaging system, it took me about 2 years to figure out myself, how I was going to implement that. So I know that talking about, any talk about going to a new system is going to cause some angst among the end users. So, I just want to make that clear that, I'm going to a new system because I believe in the ability of technology to save this county money and to run my office more efficiently, and that's why we're doing it, so.
Thank you. Is everyone satisfied with the conversation? All right, then. Let's move on to, thank you, everybody. Let's move on to Boardman River Dams update. Who's going to take that? Looks like Kim.
Hello. We were asked to provide an update of where we're at. Carl Platts with the Corps of Engineers was unable to come tonight. He's in Chicago this week. But I'm going to bring up a slide of...
Technology strategy for the...
No, I don't. Oh, that's right.
I've seen that. This one comes.
And I'm sorry, I'm Kim Balke, Project Manager with the Conservation Resource Alliance.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, as I mentioned, Carl Platts with the Corps of Engineers was unable to come this evening, but he was at our project managers meeting last Friday, so he was able to give us a good update of where they're at. So I just brought up the slide that he had shown last October of next steps, and I thought I would just run through these bullet points and share with you where the Corps of Engineers and also the overall project team is at with the Boardman Dams removal. So first off, thank you to both the county and the city for providing your letters of intent to move this overall project forward. One of the first accomplishments is that the initial interagency agreement that's under the second bullet item there between the Corps of Engineers and the EPA for that $8 million has been signed. And that allows the remaining design needs and bidding needs for the Boardman Dam removal to go forward. The Corps of Engineers has issued has electronically issued a sources sought memo. It had a close date of yesterday, actually, January 19th, 2016. This was to get an idea of the pool of construction contractors that will be capable of removing Boardman Dam and who are also interested in bidding on this project. Per the results of that process, then the Corps of Engineers will decide on the selection strategy for the appropriate contractor. A milestone that was met last month was that the joint permit application was submitted to the DEQ in Lansing for Boardman Dam removal. Just yesterday, there's been some emails going around. The tentative date for that public meeting for that permit application is going to be February 9th. It'll be in Traverse City, but the details of that haven't yet been figured out in terms of the venue, the time, and so forth. Once those details are decided, that information will be provided to the public. Another permit application is the DNR Natural Rivers permit application for Boardman Dam removal. That's being prepared right now by URS, and that should be submitted to the Gaylord office, the DNR Gaylord office, in early February. In terms of adding the removal of the Boardman Dam powerhouse and the removal of the existing Cass Road Bridge and then reconstructing Cass Road, adding those things to the scope of work with the Corps of Engineers. They have sent out what they're calling a project update for that expanded scope. And so that, everything is encompassed in the Boardman Dam removal. Also the powerhouse removal, the existing bridge removal, and rebuilding the roadway, those items are also included in the DEQ permit application. And then the last bullet item down here, project partnership agreement. They call that the PPA for short. That will be needed for Sabin Dam and Union Street Dam. At the project managers meeting last Friday, they actually talked about having a study session between the Corps of Engineers, the city, the county, and the tribe sometime in February or March, just to share information on what that PPA is exactly, and to give people an opportunity to ask questions, work through the details of that type of agreement. So look for that. We'll be scheduling that collectively with all of the entities so that hopefully everyone can attend. And, during that session, the Corps also talked about the type of document that will need to be signed for Boardman Dam removal is called a real estate agreement. It's basically permission for the Corps to remove the county's dam. They'll also review the details of that real estate agreement at that study session as well. So it'll be an interactive, session where you can ask questions and understand those two documents better.
Okay.
So in terms of looking ahead for the spring 2016, that's the target timeframe for the Corps of Engineers to have an on-site visit at Boardman Dam, just to make sure all the design plans are indeed final, any specifications, they're all complete, and all of the real estate use is figured out as well, and that includes access and so forth to the impoundment in the adjacent area. They're hoping to advertise the construction contract in the early summer, possibly June, and then with an award to a selected contractor, ideally in September. This is assuming, though, that the DEQ permit and the natural rivers permit are awarded by then. The Corps of Engineers and the EPA will also have to sign a secondary interagency agreement, that second bullet item, for the construction phase of the project. Like I said, they've already signed the first one for the design and bidding, then there has to be a second one for the construction. So it's, with this target time frame, it is possible that construction work could start like in the upper impoundment, in the fall of this year. But the bulk of the work will be a 2017 construction season.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Okay, where are you at on your bullet? Are you done with all that?
I'm done with all that. One other thing, I think it was asked about how Rotary Charities is doing with their private philanthropy effort. They were unable to make it this evening, but Rotary Charities has employed a contract grant writer through the North Sky Nonprofit Network to oversee the private philanthropy fundraising effort to help meet that local match requirement with the Corps of Engineers. I think I have that slide here. Yeah, that non-federal column on the far would be my right there.
Which one is that?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, Mr.
Sure.
I need to have clarification on the Rotary Charities. They were going to provide us a grant writer to write a joint grant. They weren't considering using Rotary Charities funds as a funding vehicle?
They would have to answer that question, I think. It's my understanding that they've employed a grant writer through the North Sky Nonprofit Network, and we've met with him. They've kicked it off with submitting a grant request to the Fry Foundation in November for $105,000. And then we met with them, and we developed a list of a dozen other mostly family and corporate foundations that might be interested in that project.
Okay.
And that person is going to contact 4 of those foundations yet this month.
But just for clarification, Kevin, they're not looking at funding it themselves. They're looking at helping us write grants to get others to fund it.
To, provide the non-federal funds.
I have one other question, if I may. I had notes on our discussion, but I left them upstairs. And I wanted this board to understand any additional liabilities or costs incurred outside. And we talked about that in terms, was it the easement or something that was additional funds, and would you mind just going over that again, because you have it down better than I do.
Do you mean the Alpers access?
Yes, the Albers access cost.
Yes. Well, the county has signed and Bob Cooney can help me out if you'd like, has signed a settlement agreement with the Alpers, I believe, 2 years ago to provide access to the river.
And that's a $30,000 cost for that?
Yes. Just a guesstimate, the engineer had looked at what that access might comprise of. There's some details that are lacking in the description of it.
Yeah.
But it could be 30,000, possibly more, depending on who contracts that.
And that is for a 2-year option?
No. That's for a permanent
easement.
personal access of the Alpers to the river.
Okay, and that's a $30,000 that the county is obligated to pay.
Yes.
And when you, but that would be in the 2017 budget year?
2017 or 18.
Okay, I just need to know those things so I can put them in the budget if they're obligations that we have to meet, so.
Yeah, and that's, I wanted to share that with you today, and I copied the Corps of Engineers too. It'll be interesting to see if we can combine that earthwork with the dam removal earthwork,
yeah.
so there's details that need to be figured out.
It's very helpful. I don't have surprises, and then I can plan accordingly,
Yeah.
so thank you for that.
Yep, no
Okay.
problem.
Are you
And
finished?
that's pretty much all. I mean, there's been some parallel fundraising for additional monitoring work. The Grand Traverse Band has submitted a couple of requests. The Conservation District submitted a request for additional stream bank and habitat work at Brown Bridge. We've submitted an additional grant proposal for some monitoring of amphibians at the dam removals as well. So, that's pretty much the gist of what's happening right now.
Hey, thank you, Kim. We'll stay right there for a second, if you would.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner.
Kim, I understand that, we're looking at demolition of the Boardman Dam in 2017, was kind of our timeline. Are we still on schedule? I suppose this question is probably for Jim, too. Are we still on schedule that the Cass Road Bridge will be built in 2016?
Yes.
Any other questions for Kim? Thank you very much. Jim, do you want to come up and say something?
Thank you, Kim.
Okay.
Is that come on Jim Cook's budget, or is it 30,000?
Good evening, Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission. We just had our pre-construction meeting on the 17th of December. The contractor is scheduled to, you'll actually see some survey work taking place, and they're getting ready for basically laying out the bridge and doing prep work and tree removals, which will begin in March. The road, Cass Road, will be shut down completely. It'll be shut down intermittently during tree clearing. It'll be shut down completely in April or May, whenever the bulk of the construction begins. And right now, the bridge project is scheduled to be complete by mid to late August of this year.
What about the bats and the frogs?
Well, we are going to, we're going to be done tree cutting before they come out.
Okay, I'm very concerned about that. All right.
Yeah.
Anything more you want to say?
No, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that the Cass Road Bridge Cass Road is going to be out of commissioning until, once you start on that, until the dam is removed, correct?
No, it depends on when the dam removal project starts. Right now, the intent has been that we're going to shut down Cass Road. We're going to construct the new bridge. In the fall, we would actually open up Cass Road again. The old bridge would still be there. We'll have a lot of explaining to do when people stop at that silly light and wait to cross a single-lane bridge after crossing that nice two-lane bridge. But, I mean, it just is what it is. And so the plan is that you would use that one-lane bridge again next winter, and then when the dam removal starts in the following spring, then the road would be shut down. and the dam would be removed, and then the river, or the road would be restored. One of the things that we're going to do, really, because we're closing the road anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do improvements to the intersection of Cass Road and Keystone. And so we're actually going to do geometric changes to the lanes. We're going to do some reconstruction, and then we're also going to upgrade the traffic signals there.
What about a rotary?
Pardon?
Rotary.
A roundabout?
A roundabout? Yeah, we considered it briefly.
Very briefly, I hope. You know, I think the thing that's going to be a little deceiving for people is to remember that we're building a new bridge over dry ground. And then we're going to tie it back to the Cass Road at the existing bridge that goes over the river until such time as the dam is removed. So it's you know, it's going to be a little hard for people to get their head wrapped around for a little bit, I think. And, you know, unfortunately, I think the time is stretched out a lot longer than it probably, at least in my mind, I thought it was ever going to be, but.
We're also going to be moving the river under the new bridge, which only Hercules can do that, you know. So, any other comments? Okay, then, thank you. Yes,
We can
Commissioner.
just get Rotary Charities here to give us an update. Have Chris Kramer, somebody contact them. That's not really on CRA's responsibility. That was their offer to help us come up with our match.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to contact Marcia Smith and get more clarification on what they actually are doing. Are they going to, I was under the impression because, you know, they're a granting agency that they were going to do the grant, and that would give us an insight if they were going to write their own grant. But sounds like they're going to write grants and go to other organizations. And I'll find out, and maybe I can send it out in an internal memo to you, what I found out, if that would help.
That would be great. And then as far as the match goes, the 2.1 million, I was under the impression that covered everything, but we have an additional $30,000 now.
Yeah, I just found that out today, and I wanted you to be aware of that was additional.
So 3 months from now, when we find out about something else that's in addition to the match, how are we going to handle that?
That's what I found out
And
today.
then 3 more months from then, when we find out that there's something in addition to the match?
As soon as I find out new surprises, I'll share them with you. I'll grant you that.
Can we have some sort of agreement that says $2.1 million and that's it?
We are currently working on an agreement that would be among all the parties, right, Counselor?
Yes.
And I talked to Chris Forsyth this morning to get an update on that. So there is an agreement being worked on, and we're sensitive to the Commission's concerns about liabilities, indemnification, and we're certainly going to include that in any agreement.
So it will be a financial agreement that puts a cap on the dollars that Grand Traverse County...
I believe, I would say yes. In my discussion with Chris, he's well aware that we want to limit our liability for that
And then we can
project.
work on a separate resolution to commit 0 general fund dollars to this project and have it all be fundraised.
If you wanted to do something like that and add it to as an attachment, an addendum to the contract, I suppose you could.
I think that would be something for the commission to discuss that stops us from having any budget surprises. And it certainly stops other departments from questioning why their funds are being cut, yet we're additionally throwing tens of thousands of dollars at a project that has nothing to do with them. It's difficult to cut personnel and fund a dam.
Well, I will continue to try to find out as much as I can. So in terms of action steps, I will contact Marcia Smith at Rotary Charities and get as much information as I can and get it into a memo to you. And if you have questions beyond that, you know, you can let me know that. And we'll keep you posted on the contract that we're working on. And we will work on the basis to limit the amount of liability that we have. And I shared with them this morning that in this year's budget, I did put money in for the dam projects, $334,000 for any, but this $30,000 was above and beyond that. I wasn't aware of that.
Is there any way to partner with the city or the tribe or all three of us on the
I believe
$30,000?
That is, and Mr. Cooney may want to expound on that, but that's what we're trying to do, is get one agreement that crosses all the groups.
I think that's the intent of the agreement, and of course, everything's negotiable, so, you know, I think that's going to be the primary concern here, is just negotiating with all the various partners.
And then at some point, if we put a cap on our contribution, and all of a sudden a surprise easement comes up, it's somebody else's problem, right?
Well, everything's negotiable, like I said.
But we, in place, have no agreement right now that says that above the $2.1 million match, we can continue to be invoiced for something, saying it's our responsibility, and we have no idea until Tom finds out unexpectedly that there's something there.
That's essentially correct, and of course, the purpose of the agreement is to keep this project moving forward, and that's what everyone prefers, I think, and so that's the leverage, I guess, that the county has.
Yes, my understanding is building on Bob's comments, the intent is to move the project forward, and the commission's, as I understand its concern, is that we do that with agreed-to understanding of county commitments and funds, and to limit our exposure for anything above that. And that's the basis we'll work on.
Any other questions?
Timeline-wise, it's coming back quickly in agreement then. I mean, this is something we're moving forward on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I just talked to Chris Forsythe about it this morning.
Yes.
And just, excuse me, I mean, I think I will add, even though we're not thrilled about any addition, but I think those numbers were based on a rough estimate. I think off the top of my head, was it 5%, give or take, if I'm not mistaken, that you think it might go above on the whole project or whatnot?
5%,
I know you've never
5% of
given us a
construction
specific dollar figure yet on the project.
on Boardman
And you
dam
had-
removal.
Yeah, and you had a built-in, if you will, factor of a certain percentage for cost overruns.
Well, it's 8.4 million that URS has estimated for Boardman dam removal, including the powerhouse and the roadway work as well. And that does have a contingency in it.
Okay.
But I guess I would just ask you not to confuse the county's settlement agreement with the Alpers to provide access to the river, not to confuse that with the dam removal river restoration project. That's an aspect that, you know, we have no control over. That was agreed upon, I think, 2 years ago. You know, if anything, we've kind of stepped outside and helped you to quantify what that access will be comprised of, how much earth will need to be moved to provide them access to where the new river will be. So, and again, that's something that could be done in 2017 or 2018. So, you know, right now, in January 2016, we're giving you advance notice on that. You know.
Other questions or comments? Yes?
Isn't the Alpers access, is that for us to be able to work on the river, or is that just Alpers access, period?
Originally, we thought we explored using their land to access the river, but they have a lot of seeps.
Okay.
You go from a very nice paved driveway to uneven ground with a lot of seeps. So now, the access there is strictly related to the settlement agreement that the county has to provide them access to the river. The access for construction for the project, we're exploring with the Aluls. Also, Mr. Forsythe has been looking at that agreement, and we are exploring, you know, compensation for that, and if it can be covered under grants. So there's 2 adjacent landowners that we're working with right now.
So there was a settlement agreement with, was it?
The Alpers.
With Alpers for damage that the river's going to do to their property? Or?
No, they had river frontage, and now with this new relocation of the river,
right,
their frontage is now no longer there because they do not own the land that's under the impoundment. But I think the court determined that they had to be granted access to the river. So we have to basically create them a path from their home to the water's edge. Because what happened is all of the Boardman Pond, and Kim can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the way I understood it, the Boardman Pond, a number of people had water frontage to the pond. The impoundment is a man-made thing. They do not have riparian rights. But when the pond was drained down, their property line stopped at where the impoundment was at the time, because it went to the water's edge. So there's the area between the edge of the impoundment and where the river is going to be now. And these people, some of them have, went through the court process and have deemed that they are to get true access to the river. So we have to provide them access across that impoundment, that dry area, if you will now, to the edge of the water. And that's what this access is about.
Okay.
Is that right?
So are we,
Yes.
are we all done with everybody's?
No, Christine has a question.
No, I really
No,
don't have
Ron
a
is
question. What I was
still-
going to suggest is
You're going to ask about the rest of the property owners, aren't you?
Right.
clear,
Yeah.
I mean,
Wait, let Ron.
are
Go ahead.
the rest of the property owners, are we done with that? Or are we going to be looking at
To my knowledge.
futuristic, and down in the future, other property owners coming up and saying,
Me too.
what about me?
No, I think there was only 2 property owners that we had to deal with from the very beginning that we figured had riparian right to the water. The Elpers was one of them.
That
Just two?
we figured I mean,
Chris next.
You mentioned two.
what I was going to suggest is, obviously, Commissioner Crawford, Commissioner Klaus, Commissioner Kropa, and Commissioner Johnson were not here when we agreed to this settlement. Just so you know, the Alpers did file suit against the county, and we reached a settlement agreement. I think it would be helpful, Mr. Cooney, if you get a chance in your excessive spare time, I got a smile out of him, if the commissioners that are not familiar with that agreement would receive a copy. And obviously, I think our administrator might want to read it, too.
Okay.
That's all I was going to suggest.
Okay,
Mr.
Tom, you were
Chairman,
saying something?
well,
Yeah.
You mentioned two easements, the Alpers easement and another easement.
Yeah.
Is that one that we have a liability to as well?
No, the second is simply a construction easement so that we can get to the upper impoundment.
So basically, so far, we have a $30,000 liability is beyond the project that we're aware of. That's about it, right?
Yes, and yes.
Okay,
Right.
anybody else? Yes.
So the ELUs, that's additional, if we are able to work out.
Yeah, so we're exploring if that can be a grant-eligible task, that
that
construction access.
So that's not a permanent access across the
It would be a
pond?
2-year easement to move equipment. They have a already established 2-track along the edge of
Right.
their field. Do you know them?
I've spent a lot of time on that property.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, well, then you
Yeah,
know
they're dear
exactly.
friends of mine, yep.
So you know that their ground is much easier to get equipment across than it would be the Alpers, so.
The, when we drain Sabin and Boardman Pond, are we going to create additional potential lawsuits with people that lose their waterfront property?
I don't believe so. I mean, I would imagine if those were to happen, they would have already happened. I'm not an attorney or a judge
Well, I
or
just
a
wonder, I mean,
landowner, so I can't-
because the Alpers, was something special about the Alpers property versus all of the other homeowners?
The edge of the water was right near their home. You know, they could see it from their kitchen window.
Right. So now we have to pay them some money to make up for that loss of that. And then how do we build an access to, are we building them a boardwalk or something?
The agreement has the conditions in it.
Okay.
It gives the dimensions of the pathway to the river.
Basically, they get an oversized sidewalk to the beach.
That's what I
Or to the
figured.
water.
Okay. But we aren't lined up to potentially have to create more oversized sidewalks for the rest of the people that live on the river?
No.
The other properties have all been ruled on. We do not have to provide that.
So that's all the way to South Airport Road. Everybody's been ruled on?
I believe
about all
so.
the way to
I don't
South
think you
Airport
have
Road.
landowners near Sabin, so.
There's any homes near Sabin, I don't think.
No, not in the Nature Education Reserve.
No,
Frank,
let's not do that. Let's not do
Frank,
that.
you got to
Step
get up to the microphone.
Okay.
I appreciate your information, but I want to do it right.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying about the Alpers. It wasn't I mean, we appreciate the help on that. It's just, most of us here weren't here when this project started, so we're trying to learn
Catch
what
up.
more
No, I
surprises could
understand
be
that.
here. And I mean, it's great, we'll get the memo on the Alpers settlement but I don't know how many people live on the river by the Sabin or the Boardman Dam. I just don't know. I mean, are there more potential?
There's a neighborhood, I think there's 24 landowners near the Boardman Pond, but they don't have, their homes, their lots are not configured the way that the Alpers was. They're
So it's a
not that
unique
close
piece
to the
of
water.
property.
There was
Yes.
26 original property owners, if my memory's right, on Boardman Pond. The county was obviously one of those.
Okay. Frank, do you want to speak?
Yeah, did you?
Okay, step up, please.
I just wanted to, Frank Deturi, 2800 Riverbend, Traverse City, Michigan, implementation team chair. Just related to your question regarding property down to South Airport, part of the Army Corps of Engineers process is signatory for all adjacent landowning parties. So all those issues will be worked out as part of the Army Corps process, and I think you'll have a better answer to that question when you talk to the Corps.
With the PPA?
No, I think that'll probably be handled, I'm just guessing, I think that'll be handled before the PPA. I think as part of the next phase, they certainly have to entertain some of those properties because there will be some work there. So I know that they will not proceed with the project or a job without having land ownership issues complete.
So we have opportunity to speak with the Army Corps soon then, as one of the property owners, as the county? Or do we have an opportunity? I know that Carl couldn't be here tonight. Do we have an opportunity to talk to Carl and ask questions at some point, or?
I think Kim mentioned that a little earlier.
Yeah, I'll speak for Carl. I'm sure you could contact him as you need to. But that study session for the project partnership agreement and the real estate agreement for Boardman Dam, that should be taking place in February or March.
Okay.
So I think that would be helpful.
Is there indemnification of some kind if the Boardman Dam breaches like Brown Bridge did, and all of a sudden these property owners, maybe they'll really be waterfront property owners. Is there, what's the county's scope of liability? Or that was the questions that I wanted answered. And I was told in the PPA agreement, all of a sudden, we're not dealing with CRA or the IT now, we're dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I just have wanted for months the answer to the question, if the Brown Bridge or the Sabin or both of them breach, where is the county's scope of liability? So if they were to be reaching out to property owners, which makes sense as part of, doing their due diligence on this project, is there indemnification with reach out to the property owners by the Army Corps? Where do we lie? I mean, it could happen again. We could have a breach again. Things happen. And where's the county sitting there? We don't know. And I don't know who's in charge, and I don't know who's liable.
Well, that's, again, that's a legal question for the Army Corps of
The
Engineers.
Army Corps. So that's
that's a study
why we really
session.
wanted to have the Army Corps here, rather than put it on your shoulders, because this isn't it's not your responsibility.
Well, we're, project manager, for the overall project, and I guess I was under the impression that, that you wanted like an update of where we were all at, just in general.
We'd like to hear from Rotary Charities, because I think we want to not contribute general fund dollars to this. And we'd like to hear from the Army Corps, if the dam breaches again, what our scope of liability is for a lawsuit. It happened once. It can happen again. It could happen 3 times. We're dealing with structures that are over 100 years old. They didn't file all of their blueprints with the County Construction Code Office in 1898. They don't know what they're going to encounter. Things happen. And we moved forward, unfortunately signed a letter of intent without getting the answer to what is the scope of the county's liability on this project. So, who do we ask? It's Carl Platts?
I don't think the letter of intent, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think anything in that letter of intent that you signed.
Frank, could you, the microphone, please?
I don't think that anything to do with the letter of intent that you signed ties you to any legal implications due to the project. As far as the project management as moving forward, those questions should be addressed by the Army Corps and their
Yeah.
legal officers in conjunction with the counties.
Okay, so you've given her 2 tasks, right?
Well, I think she's done fine. I mean, she did her,
Okay.
but I'm talking about the Army Corps of Engineers.
Do
I
we
don't.
need to answer that question, and Kim, can we work on that answer?
Yeah, I mean, that's not really Kim's responsibility, I don't think.
Well,
Well, we'll be helping to coordinate the study session, that joint study session between the tribe, the city, the county, and the Army Corps in February or March.
Yes,
This
Tom?
is- I think we might want to check with our insurance companies, since we do own the dams, to see what kind of liability or exposure we would have and what kind of coverage they would get as well.
I think we need an answer to that question.
I wanted,
Seems like a reasonable question.
Go ahead.
Kim, I just want you to be aware that we have our administrator
Okay.
and 1, 2, 3 that I know of, county commissioners, that are taking some vacation in February.
Okay, yeah.
And just to give you a little heads up, if you want, we are reporting our vacation dates for the month of February to Chris Kramer. If you
Okay.
want to just give her a call so that you have them, there's no sense in scheduling a meeting if we're not going to be here or be able to attend. Although, it's important enough that I think, well, I know my vacation could be changed.
No, it's
But
useful.
I think there are a few others that are just set.
I'm gone.
I'm gone.
All right.
I know.
To warmer climates, I hope, for everybody.
I want to go on a Boardman River canoe trip.
We've done it in the winter. It's beautiful year-round. You just don't want to
It'll be
fall in.
much warmer than that, believe me. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Kim, and I might be recalling incorrectly, but it seemed like when the Boardman Dam goes down and the river's restored, that upstream, the river's actually being rerouted a bit. Is that there where the Alpers property is? Because that river's going to get rerouted? It just seemed like when Frank was showing his slides back in the earlier meetings when we were looking at that project, just wondering if when that river starts to reroute, it's going to take it off someone's property and bring it, or it's staying all in one piece of property, or is that?
It's all on the county's property, and the Alpers are further downstream. So that new bend that'll be created by Lone Pine, that's way
county
upstream of Alpers.
That's
Yeah, that
county
does.
property then, anyway. Okay.
Yeah,
all
that
right.
doesn't pertain.
you.
They'll still be able to see the river from their house.
Right.
So-
I just was wondering about that property. If it's county property, I guess we're not going to have a problem with it.
Not suing ourselves.
Okay. Anybody else? Any more questions? Want to try to move on? Okay.
Thank you.
You satisfied, everybody? Okay, then.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on now to finance and budget adjustments. Who's going to take that?
I'll try. Just, I brought forward some budget adjustments that we're proposing for the 2015 year end that met the scope to bring before you. And we asked for board approval on those budget adjustments, and I can try to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for her? Go ahead.
I would move that we accept the budget adjustments as presented.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, support by Commissioner Klaus. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Good job. Okay. You won that, Eric.
Make it
All right. Now we go to Parks and Recreation, and who's taking this?
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. I'm Chris Erickson, the Director of County Parks and Recreation. And before you, starting on page 23, is a request from our department to simply codify or make formal the move of the Senior Center Network under the Parks and Recreation Commission and Department. This decision was made in December, and I started trying to figure out how we were going to do business with the Parks Board, start to do business with the Parks Board, overseeing the Senior Center Network. And I contacted Chris Forsyth to make sure that that we could go ahead and do that, and that raised other questions. And he did some research and realized through his research that the governing documents of the Parks and Recreation Commission have to be changed to bring the Senior Center Network under us. And also, I'm here to talk about the millage proposal for the Senior Center Network that's going to be on the ballot in 2016. And there's also a resolution that's proposed by the prosecuting attorney's office in my memo. So the first item that I'd like to ask for you to consider is the change to the Parks and Recreation Commission's rules and regulations as outlined on page 24 of your packet.
Let's take that right now then. Any discussion about that or questions? Is there a motion? Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to change the Parks and Recreation Commission rules as outlined.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Since this is effective immediately, can we do a roll call?
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Oh, yes, and
You
I
told me I was
apologize.
supposed to do that before the meeting.
I apologize for the request for the immediate action, but we thought it was necessary considering that we wanted to start
You
conducting
only have to
business.
apologize to Sonny, because he's
Oh.
he's the one that cares about immediate action.
Commissioner Wheelock, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Your motion has to be for immediate approval.
Yeah, I don't have it on my thing. Okay, I said.
That's what she meant.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Immediate approval, it says it right at the top of the...
I'm looking at a letter.
So Crawford?
Yes.
Klaus?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Cropa?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes. One down and two to go.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
On page 24, our proposed changes to the millage language that was presented to all of you several months ago before this change was made with the Senior Center Network coming under Parks. And I would respectfully ask that you approve those language changes for the ballot for this year.
Okay, any questions? Yes.
I don't have a question. I would move to revise millage language, the millage proposal for senior centers to remove references, I'll spit it out yet, references to the Commission on Aging as provided for in the attached memo from the prosecuting attorney's office, and to adopt the resolution as proposed by Civil Counsel, Mr. Forsyth.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay.
Was that
Any
supposed to be
discussion?
for immediate approval?
And I meant for immediate approval, thank
Sure you
you.
did.
Yeah, any discussion? Roll call.
Who was the second on that?
Was,
That was Commissioner Wheelock.
yeah.
And you're doing both those things, amendment and the...
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let's see. Klaus?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Cropa?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes. Okay, now, do we have to do item 3 then, or do we? we've
I
got
just
all-
did it.
Well, that was smart.
Put that together.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I
If you want
really-
to mention something.
I really appreciate it. I also wanted to just provide a brief update about the pool. The Y came in last week on Wednesday, and as of Sunday, we had 221 visits to the pool, which I think is more sometimes than we received when we were managing the pool. And there also are over 100 memberships now, and the pool's been open just a week today. So we're hopeful that we'll hit that 400 mark pretty soon to relieve us of the utilities. I had one more announcement too, and I know, I also wanted to let you know that the Exchange Club Foundation has provided grant monies for an AED for Power Island in the amount of $3,000. It will be for a portable AED for boaters or campers that the ranger can keep with him and transport with him. So it was a very gracious gift. I received the award of money from them on Monday. And so I just want to thank the Exchange Club Foundation for making Power Island a safer place, our park safer for our patrons.
Nice job. Thank you, Christine. Yes, sir.
I would add, I talked to Jay from the YMCA, and he's very pleased with the way things are going so far. He was
Good.
Says they're going very, very well.
That's good to hear. I talked with him today, too. We're both very pleased with the arrangement.
Yeah.
We hope it'll get better and better.
Thank you, Christine, nice job.
Thank you.
Oh, did you have a comment?
Yeah, and I'll be the naysayer. I mean, they've been selling memberships for a month now, and you would think it would be, the first month would be the hot selling item. So if they've got 100, they really need to, in my mind, they won't hit 400, but
That's
like I
the
said,
flip side of it.
I'll be the negative Nelly.
I can't address that.
Well, I have to tell you, I was over at the the Silver Lake Y on the treadmill, and I saw Jay, and he told me that he was selling about 3 or 4 memberships over for Easling a day at that point. And he told me that he had hit the 100 member mark. He said once the fitness equipment goes in there, he believes that he's going to be able to capture the hockey moms, the hockey players who want...
Sounds so wrong.
I'm just telling you.
Well, commissioners.
I appreciate his enthusiasm and his optimism, and I said, I was with you, the naysayer, and I said, I'm looking forward to having you prove me wrong.
Someone's going to capture the hockey moms. That's interesting. Okay.
Commissioner Maxwell, that's what I was going to say, so thank you for that.
One thing too is Jay is going to look, because you scan your tag wherever you go in, they're going to look, and it's not necessarily, they're not just going to count people that have Easling memberships, they're going to count people that predominantly use Easling but have overall YMCA memberships, and that might be the difference. And we've never had the type of technology to even count our pool patrons before, so just that alone is going to be really interesting for us. So
Yes, so the numbers that I provided to you tonight still will be more based on that, as soon as he can capture that information. So Commissioner Johnson, stay tuned.
You know me, I just start the fires.
That's all
I'm
right.
going to go over and just keep putting my scanner in.
Thank you.
Not visits, no.
Okay, now we have unfinished business, and that is, I think you're going to take that, Commissioner Krupa.
Oh, yes, I believe it was a month ago, I brought forward to the commission elimination of commissioner pension match by the county, but we had some legal questions and some questions from MERS, and Bob's office has done a great job, along with Sally and HR, in getting all of that information together. So you'll see something on your desk here, and we did receive an email as well a few days ago with information regarding that. We have lowered our benefits, we have lowered our amount of meetings, we have lowered our amount of committee appointments, and we ran on a platform of shrinking our government, and we're doing it despite what people may think. And I think that the final step to that, well, there's 2 final steps. One I would ask today is for us to discuss a resolution to eliminate county matches to commissioner pensions. And then beyond that, we are looking at removing power from the board and giving it to the administrator coming up here on the February 3rd meeting. So with all of those movements put together, I would be very surprised if anybody could accuse this board continually of trying to grow government when all we've done is shrink it. So if you read the information from Sally there, for those that are currently enrolled in the MERS plan, it would eliminate the county match. So you are welcome to continue to contribute money. If anybody watched the Dow today, they might not want to, but you're welcome to contribute money of your own, but no taxpayer funds will be used to match it if we were to move forward with this resolution.
Yes.
So if we were to move forward with the resolution, is there a mechanism by which we'd be able to get back the money that we...
Yeah, that has nothing to do with this. That's something you work your own with HR.
Just talk to HR?
This has to do with the county match
right
to pensions, and that's all that it is. And you
Okay.
can always deal with things individually.
Okay.
But nobody can keep your money, so,
That was my question.
yep.
Any
But-
other questions or comments?
I think Bob would be the best one to detail what our next step would be if the board was interested in moving forward. We had resolution language in an email, but that email bounced back and forth, and I never saw a final resolution, and I know that Sally had some concerns according to the last email update.
Well, my understanding is MERS has to update its agreement. I don't think that the county has to do anything other than approve or not approve this change, and then it's up to MERS to do the calculations. Our office essentially, we were consulted about whether or not it was possible to make that change, I think because of restrictions on changing elected officers' compensation. This is not considered salary, and so there's no restriction there. You can change a benefit certainly if you voluntarily agree to do it anyway.
So we don't need a resolution before us, we can just use a motion?
That would be fine.
Okay. Well, then I will make the motion to eliminate the county contribution to commissioner pension funds.
Support.
Is there a second? Okay.
I'll support.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, does this require a roll call? Mine, we roll call.
Why not?
Yeah.
Sure.
What the heck?
Do we have a date that will be effective?
I think you'd still have to work it out with MERS.
Yeah, we still have to work it out with MERS as far as amending the agreement and calculations.
Roll call.
Okay. Wheelock?
Yes.
Croupa?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Klaus?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
motion passes. Let's move on to new business, which should be conflict of interest disclosure, immediate approval requested. Who's going to take that?
If you want to remove the immediate approval request,
We were gonna
I can
dump
do
on
that.
you.
Sonny, of
because I
all
was-
people asking for that.
I was notified this morning that I was the selected vendor and that the undersheriff wants the work done on Thursday, the 28th, and we will meet on the 27th. So if you don't want to do it for immediate approval, we can do it
Dr.
next
Jonathan
Wednesday
and I
night.
discussed this, and we thought we really want
They
you to
really-
do the job, but we want to dump on you about immediate
yes.
approval.
Well, I just said, we can eliminate the immediate approval.
No, we
Just a quick description. On the north end entrance at the Law Enforcement Center, there's steel pans with poured concrete steps and the rubber overlays on the top of them. And as the snow and ice over the years have been tracked into there and the salt, the bottom 3 steps have corroded and are structurally compromised. And what we looked at was the overlay, if you will, of creating a new pan and welding it in place underneath the existing pan. They're going to peel off the rubber overlays, check the integrity of the concrete and see whether it needs to have regrouted or whatever, and then put new rubber overlays on the top of those. It's not a huge job, as you can tell from the proposal. It's basically 3 steps that need to have new steel pans welded in underneath them, the integrity of the concrete rechecked, and then reseal them. And it's strictly a wear and tear thing. The snow and ice and salt and ice melter has compromised the integrity of the steel pans that are under the concrete.
Okay, is there a motion? Go ahead.
I have a question. You may not know the answer to this, and it's not your responsibility, but I was just wondering, did they put it out for bid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ace Welding was another bidder. My understanding was they were going to, I had asked Janice to forward a copy of Ace Welding's bid to you, but it's not here in the packet this evening, so I don't know whether it didn't get over here, but I know that, right, wrong, or indifferent, I guess my bid was slightly lower by about $150.
Sounds good.
Yes.
I just validated, it was 160, that you were the lowest.
160.
And Sonny and I, Commissioner Wheelock and I discussed this, and he's been overly transparent to make it very open, so I think this is way above board.
He always is.
Oh, I didn't mean this in reference to Sonny, I was asking about the sheriff's
I
department.
just think it's good to people
Facilities
know
that
that
handle this.
he's been very transparent and went overboard to make sure everybody was aware of it.
Yes, ma'am.
I would move to immediately approve Wheelock and Sons to proceed with the repair at the Law Enforcement Center.
Second.
A second by Crawford. Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Croupa,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Abstain?
Lathrop.
Yes. Okay, let's go on. Now we are at second public comment. Anybody want to talk? Got some young people here. You want to get up and give a speech? All right. Commissioner reports. Yes.
Commission on Aging. A debt of gratitude goes out once again to the Sheets, the David Sheets Foundation. Mrs. Sheets, for many, many years, would walk in and anonymously write a check for the Commission on Aging. Her husband was very supportive of senior services in Grand Traverse County. Mrs. Sheets, after she passed, the foundation, and keep in mind, she chose to be anonymous for many, many years. The Sheets Foundation has been continuing that contribution, and yesterday it was reported that the Commission on Aging has received a donation of $25,000. So I wanted to let everybody know that. Also at Commission on Aging, there is a new job description and a new, I guess, way of looking at services for seniors. And the entire Commission on Aging Board was extremely excited about this. We are, well, I should say we, the Commission on Aging is going to what is called a universal aid. And it is going to, the job description is here. If anyone would like a copy of it, let me know. But really what it amounts to is combining the certified nurses' aides with the homemaker aides. And rather than have sometimes two employees working for a client, this will be one employee doing what two employees used to do. This is going to allow better service for the clients, more flexibility in scheduling for the Commission on Aging staff. It's also going to give Commission on Aging homemaker aides an opportunity to improve their skills and increase their pay. So really this is a win-win. It's a win for the clients, a win for the department as a whole, because it's going to increase flexibility and probably, we anticipate, decrease expenses. And I just wanted to let you all know that that is something new that is happening. Also at Commission on Aging, it was reported that Christine Erickson and Laura Green have gotten together with Lori Wells, and the Front and Center newsletter that is normally put out is going to be more of a county newsletter. And the people that put out the Commission on Aging Front and Center newsletter anticipate, because the mailing is going to increase, and right now I want everyone to know this newsletter is done at no cost to the taxpayer. The funding comes from the ads that are sold in the magazine that then goes out and lets people know, what activities are planned for what month and where they are planned. So this is not a cost to the taxpayer, but this magazine is going to be, they anticipate it's going to be expanded to include park activities, et cetera, et cetera. And I look forward to that first publication, which I'm told probably will come out around April. April? Christine is nodding, so I got that right. So that's my Commission on Aging Committee report.
Okay, anybody else? Commissioner reports. Go ahead, Sonny.
I would report that Long Lake Township, as you are aware, separated from the Grand Traverse Rural Fire System as of January 1st. They have hired a new fire chief, and he comes from New York, and off the top of my head, for the life of me, I can't remember his name right now, and I apologize for that. They did approve at their meeting last Thursday night to purchase a new 3,300-gallon tandem axle tanker, and they have a new rescue truck already in-house. So, moving along.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Christine and I are meeting with another donor tomorrow community business that is interested in donating to the new Kids Cove, or it's not Kids Cove anymore, playground. So things are looking very good in the donation category, and we're just really fortunate. And we have another group that's waiting in the wings. That'll be the third one.
Very cool, very cool. Any other announcements? Yes, sir.
I was lucky enough to be the guest of Representative Inman last night for the State of the State address, and had a that was interesting to see that. I don't know if my wife will go again, but it was interesting. But then we had a good meal with Representative Inman and some other folks. Alex was there from Cambria Suites. So it gave me a good time to and talk with Representative Inman about some of the issues we have here, and also with the other board I'm on for the Veterans Facility. So it was a good time.
Good, thank you. Yes.
I do not have, this is not a committee, well, I guess it is sort of a committee report. I went down to the Michigan Association of Counties last Friday, and I'm going to hand out Senate Bill number 679. This bill was sponsored, surprisingly enough, by Senator Casperson, who is running for U.S. Congress. And he is expanding, in Senate Bill number 679, compulsive arbitration. This was discussed at length at the Michigan Association of Counties meeting last Friday afternoon, and both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans in the committee, unanimously moved to express their extreme displeasure with this bill. This bill potentially will cost counties out of their general fund between $100,000 and $200,000. It is bad legislation. What Senator Casperson was thinking, I cannot imagine. But in any event, I think that you all will, I will give everyone a copy. I would encourage you to share this with your townships and ask them to please voice their concern about this. And that's really all I have.
Okay. Any other comments or reports?
Can I ask her a question?
Yes.
Is Dana Gill your legislative liaison there for your committee?
It's Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of her last name.
Is MAC preparing a template resolution to oppose this bill?
Oh, they're already fighting it, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Because we could go ahead and do that, and I have a feeling that a unanimous resolution from the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners may be of interest to Tom Casperson.
You think? I told everybody in the room, for a man who was running as a Republican for the United States Congress, I don't know what he was thinking.
It would be worth checking with Elizabeth to see if they have their template resolution.
Are you going to make a motion?
No, I don't need to. MAC does that service for us, and I'll be in Lansing Monday for Judiciary and Public Safety with some of the same issues.
Very cool. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just for your edification, as we go into these labor negotiations, I'm asking for loser pays in arbitration for all of them. We have that at the previous place I worked, loser pays in arbitration, which basically says that everyone has the right to take an arbitration, to call for an arbitration, but if you lose, you pay for the other side and yours as well. And the benefit of that is unions don't take frivolous arbitration to bring them forward, because they cost about $10,000 a piece. But it also, if you have a labor contract, it makes sure that your HR department are implementing that contract correctly, because if you lose, you're not. So it puts accountability on both sides, doesn't cost anything, and it lessens the amount of frivolous arbitrations, which cost about
Tom, this is an expansion of Public Act 312.
Mm-hmm.
You can,
Yeah, because you can't arbitrate.
and Bonnie, I'll hand Carrie and give you a copy, since I handed it out.
Okay, anybody else? All right, now we have a closed session about Duck Lake. Will someone make a motion to go in closed session? Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to go into closed session to discuss an attorney-client privileged communication regarding the Duck Lake drainage.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Require a roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford? Yes. Klaus?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Coropa?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes. Okay, we're going to close session.
Hey, man, you need signatures? You need a signature?